Hi, good morning all, and welcome to today's session. Today's session is brought to you by Complete IT Systems in partnership with Datto. Today we're going to be talking all about Datto RMM and how that can empower your business. Lots and lots of exciting content to get through today, so we will kick off straight away. My name is Greg Jones, Business Development Director for Datto in the EMEA region, meaning I'm one of the product evangelists here for Datto, and also engage with Complete IT Systems around their partnership with Datto as an organisation. Also super excited today to have a good colleague and friend of mine on, Matt Smith, who is a Senior Solutions Engineer. Quite frankly, what Matt doesn't know about RMM is not worth knowing. So he's going to take you through a demonstration a little bit later on today. First, I thought I'd start with a very quick overview as Datto as an organisation and our relationship with Complete IT Systems. So Datto is an organisation that serves managed service providers around the world. Ultimately, we bring enterprise-grade technology down to empower SMBs out there in the field. As I said, we are a global organisation, and that is the reason Complete IT Systems not only use our technology, but also leverage our dominance in the marketplace. We were founded back in 2007, 23 offices around the globe, and over 2,000 staff supporting the likes of Complete IT Systems. Ultimately, Datto as an organisation is primarily known for protecting business data, no matter where that data lives. But Datto as an organisation is actually a security organisation. We are in the business of security, that being not only protecting Datto, but protecting Complete IT Systems and ultimately protecting your organisation for businesses. We all know that COVID-19 has been horrendous for humans, but it has been amazing for technology. Many businesses out there in the field are operating more profitably and more productively than ever before in most cases. However, that has created a huge opportunity for the likes of bad actors out there. Cybercrime and ransomware is currently at an all-time high out there in the marketplace. I just wanted to start by, setting the scene for today's session before we get into Datto RMM and how that can not only protect your business, but ultimately empower your business going forward. So if we look at the last kind of 18 months really throughout COVID, and hopefully we are truly seeing a roadmap out of COVID now, the business landscape has massively changed. Obviously, we've all gone to a remote working environment, with many organizations getting operational from anywhere in the world, basically. And Complete IT Systems done an amazing job at really kickstarting the cogs of industry again, getting SMBs up and running and operational. However, this has also forced digital transformation in many businesses. Many businesses are now realizing that they are more profitable and productive than ever before just by using certain technology, and not even cutting edge technology. Some of it is quite mundane technology, but it has really empowered their business. So many organizations are looking how they can empower their business with the use of technology and looking at digital transformation. Again, Complete IT Systems can aid you and fully assist you on this journey going forward. The shift to the cloud has been absolutely phenomenal over the last 18 months. Rather than using the likes of on-premise devices, we've all gone home. We're using cloud technology. We're using our business devices within our home networks. So the shift to the cloud has been absolutely phenomenal. However, cyber attacks have also increased over this period of time. Why? Because bad actors have really seen that they can exploit SMBs out there because there is more opportunities. And this really sets the scene as to why we believe every organization should have an RMM tool within their organization to manage their infrastructure, their fleet of IT equipment. Today, when we look at today's digital age in business, we are truly dealing with an infinite number of business devices, not only the likes of laptops, desktops, and servers, as when we look back at older traditional businesses, but now we're having to deal with, mobile home working, business data traversing home networks, possibly next to traffic that is going to gaming channels or home entertainment, and an explosion around the Internet of Things within your business, the likes of CCTV systems, photocopiers, door access control systems, many, many different things. So we're going to get to the scene of why we believe you need an RMM for your business. And ultimately, it's all about improving efficiency within your business. An RMM tool, which is remote monitoring and management of all of your devices out there, it's all about improving efficiency, reducing your operational expenses within your business, because we all know that is very expensive. But more importantly, it's about mitigating your risk level out there, reducing your risks to cybercrime, random devices out there in the field. When you look at an RMM solution for your business, you should know that a number one priority, not only at Datto, but for any RMM tool, it should be around security, certainly as we move forward in the digital age. So you might be saying on today's webinar, well, that sounds great, Greg, but what is an RMM tool? So when we look at an RMM tool, it basically is made up of 5 key pillars or components for your organization. And it starts with the ability to be able to audit all devices that are out there in the field, whether that be on site, in the cloud, in home networks, and truly ability to manage exactly everything that's out there. When we look at the management side of things, that is, as the infinite number of devices increases for your business over the years, it becomes harder to manage, to keep them systems up to date. And that is exactly what the likes of Complete IT Systems do. Take the pain away from your business to make sure they mitigate any risk and protect your organization. And an RMM tool is that key component to manage all of your infrastructure out there, whether that's in the cloud, on premise, in your office, or on a home network. But also being able to monitor it, being able to monitor exactly what is happening on your network in real time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that can also alert the likes of the Complete IT team should an incident, an issue, or even just an anomaly pop up during the business day. It's about being able to be proactive around your estate, which ultimately drives profitability, revenue, and growth for your business. It also enables the likes of Complete IT to be able to deliver world-class support for your organization. When you need it most, they are able to not only connect, but remotely behind the scenes, diagnose, troubleshoot systems without you even knowing they are on the systems in some cases. And then finally, being able to report on exactly what is happening out there on your networks, being able to report real time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for your business, because there are so many devices now out there, whether it be personal devices, business devices, or the crossover in between. When we look at Datto RMM, we are truly demonstrating today a world-class leading solution for your business. With Datto RMM, it's actually all in the cloud. This was not an afterthought for us like many other vendors out there. We were truly born in the cloud. We have scalability for your organization. We are 100% secure in terms of our data centers where we operate around the globe. And also we have a proven track record of 4 nines of uptime. and that being 99.99%, which in the IT world is an incredible amount of uptime. It's powerful for your business. It drives your business forward. It allows automation to be able to automate many things within your business so that there is not that human intervention, i.e. that cost point to your business. It's really intuitive to use, really helpful insight into your business. I mentioned earlier that it actually is all about monitoring, managing, support. But this is a way that you can make decisions based on real-time information about your business, ultimately making data-driven decisions, which we all know is absolutely key in today's digital age. When we look at a full feature stack of an RMM platform, we've already discussed that it involves audit, being able to audit, manage, monitor, support, and report. But it's about more than that. It's about being able to customize an RMM tool for the needs of your business. Datto RMM is not just an out-of-the-box solution that fits every organization. We customize it, complete IT, tailor it for the needs of your business, because every business is different. What matters to you might not matter to the SMB down the road. So when we look at it, you can look at all of your endpoints, your devices in one single location. You can have endless amounts of automation across your business, so you can use the monitoring to identify things that need to be actioned and then automate them processes with workflow rules that Matt's going to get into a little bit later on today. Also key is Datto RMM Ransomware Detection. We can now detect ransomware out there on endpoints, on devices, and then isolate them so that they are not proposing a risk to your business, mitigating the risk around cyber security and resilience for your business. We can take over desktops with remote control should complete IT systems need to actually get onto the device to get you operational or up and running when you need it most. And I've already mentioned the insight and reporting functionality to be able to keep you aware of what is out there and possibly even how you need to budget in the future around your technology estate. It really is about empowering your business. Now, when we talk about security here at Datto, that is our paramount concern. We take security in everything that we do extremely serious. We have over 60 full-time security staff, and that is before we even start talking about the security teams that we have embedded in our individual product departments and also the external resources that we use to test our environments. I mentioned before, we are a scalable cloud solution with 99.99% of uptime to your business. We also mandate two-factor authentication. Again, we were the first in the industry to do this, but again, it's about taking security for your SMB business extremely serious. We can be extremely granular in the levels of control that we deliver to not only your SMB, but also the likes of the teams at complete IT systems. All of our organization, all of our tools are penetration tested by external experts to make sure that we are delivering world-class support. We also have a huge amount of accreditations around our RMM program. The last one being BSIM, which I'm most proud on, which we'll talk about later. We are the only RMM solution on the planet to achieve BSIM accreditation, which stands for built-in security maturity level within a product. So we've already touched on ransomware. We know it is a huge area of concern for many businesses. We're seeing an exploding trend around ransomware. Datto RMM is your key component to mitigate that risk. Not only can we identify it, isolate it, alert and let the team at Complete IT System know so that they can mitigate it and then get you fully operational again. So please reach out to the team at Complete IT to see how ransomware detection can empower your business. So today we thought we're not going to give you a death by PowerPoint, but really I just wanted to set the scene today of the security landscape, the evolving use of technology within SMBs, and a very quick high-level overview of Datto RMM. However, in a moment, I'm going to hand over to Matt, who's going to take you through a demonstration where you can see this actually in real time and in a live environment, which might make a little bit more sense than the slides I'm showing you today. I mentioned just before that we are the only vendor that we have achieved the most recent BSIM compliance. This means that not only our product, but also all of our team have been validated to the built-in security maturity level. That means that we take security very seriously here at Datto for your business. Thank you for allowing me to present them few slides. I'm now going to hand over to Matt. Matt, are you on the session, sir?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Greg. So if I share my screen then, hopefully you can all see that. Is that all good? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so just to pick up from where sort of Greg left off then, I'm just going to give you a walkthrough of the RMM. Now there's a bit of structure we need to get down first, and then we'll look at the monitoring and the auditing and that kind of stuff that Greg was talking about. So the product really is split into three different sections or levels. So you have sites, first of all. Now sites could be departments, geographic locations, right? They could be office spaces. They're just logical groupings of machines. Within the sites, then you have devices. But sitting across all of that are policies. And this is where most of the work is done in the RMM. Now policies could be monitoring, patching, agent behavior. It's basically just a collection of settings. So let's talk about the site structure first of all. So if I jump into an example sort of site I've got here, at the top we see we've got the machines that are under management. Now they could be switches, routers, printers, right? Macs, Linux, Windows. They're just a bunch of machines we've got under management. Underneath that though, we're going to go and scan the network, go find me other devices, just go and audit basically what we have out there. And we're going to produce a list of things we found here. Now we can either choose to view this in a list format, which we can push out to a CSV file if we need to, right? So go and perform me a site survey, for example. We can try and onboard these devices from here. So am I going to try and deploy an agent to a Mac, a Windows machine, etc.? Am I going to try and onboard and monitor a network device using SNMP? But the nice thing that we're going to also do in the background here is we're going to try and logically figure out how this stuff actually plugs together. So if I just expand this. So we're going to try and figure out how this stuff is getting to the internet first of all. So if I choose this device here, for example, we're going to show you the route it's taking, because we might have multiple ways to get to the internet. So which route is this machine currently taking? We're also going to allow you to expand everything else we found on this network. And so it's the audit part from a site perspective is not just discovering what's out there, but also how it fits together in the network as well. And we can choose to push that out as an image if we want to include that with our internal documentation. So let's move on to monitoring then, because that's quite a big topic. Now, when we talk about monitoring, we're really talking about a stack. So at the bottom of the stack, you have your physical hardware, so routers, printers, switches, server chassis, SNMP monitoring, basically. Then you have operating systems, so Windows, Mac, Linux, you need to take care of those. You might have hypervisors in the mix there somewhere, so ESXi or Hyper-V, we should look at those. And at the top of the stack, you have your application layer. So things like backup software, antivirus software, Windows Server roles, they'd all be at the top. So if we look down my list of policies here, you see I'm following that structure. Here's my operating systems, applications, hypervisors, and so on. And so if we jump into this workstation monitoring policy here as the example. Now I'm operating at a global level here. So I'm not interested in sites at this point. I'm interested in types of devices. So you see here, I've made my target all my Windows desktop operating systems, and that's OS type, not chassis. And then we have the actual makeup of the policy. So all the usual kind of checks we want to do, you know, are we blue screening? Do we have a corrupt file system? What does the disk space look like? And so on. And this is where we can start to apply some automation. So if we take a look at this principal and monitor I've got here, here we're saying, look, alert me if we find the principal is stopped. We can choose the priority of this alert. Do we consider this to be medium, critical, high, etc.? But the important part is how we respond. So if the RMM finds the service is stopped, we might want it to automatically start it for us. So the point behind the RMM really is not just to alert, but also to attempt a first fix as well. And so if we take a look at the disk usage monitor, disk space monitor I've got here, again, here's our threshold that we've set up. Now we can use a percentage or a real number, right? So we've got a choice on how that looks. But if we think about what engineers would do with that, they would probably empty recycle bins, delete temporary internet files, and so on. So I also have the ability here to run a script, a component as a response. So I might have a disk cleanup script that I want to run. So now my logic says, you know, alert me when we pass this threshold, then execute the script. Once the script is finished, if it's under the threshold, we'll close the alert. So we knew it happened, we could report on it, we just didn't need an engineer. And as I said, the point behind the RMM really is to start taking those quick fixes, those repetitive tasks that are pretty straightforward for the RMM to resolve. Let's get them through the RMM. So once I've designed my monitoring, I need to keep that stack in mind. I've got operating systems, we've got servers with different roles, DNS, DHCP, and so on. I've certainly got antivirus software floating around that I need to keep an eye on. Once I've designed my monitoring, the sites will inherit whatever we've set up at the global level there, and the devices will inherit from their parent site. So if I go into a device I've got here, as an example. So if I scroll down here, here's my monitoring policies that I've inherited, and it's all based on that targeting mechanism. So all my Windows desktops, you see, but I have the ability to turn this off at a device level. So maybe we're in the process of migrating from on-prem servers to Azure. We might be decommissioning old hardware, so it might physically exist. We just don't care about it anymore. So at the device level, I can choose to turn off the policies. If I scroll down, I can also start to expose the monitoring line items from those policies. So let's say we have a really old server here that we're in the process of decommissioning. We might be already breaching the disk space threshold. So rather than turn off the entire monitoring policy, I could just turn off the disk space line item here and then create a custom monitor just on this device. And so that's how the monitoring policies flow down. Now, from sort of an alerting perspective, then we can push that out as an email. We can send it to, in your case, Complete IT. They might maybe forward that back to yourselves. You know, there's a whole mechanism sitting behind that. The monitors there are really just checking for a status and then doing something. So from a sort of a global perspective, then it might be nice to have a dashboard to see, well, what is the state of the devices we have out there. So we can build dashboards that show antivirus statuses, patch statuses. We can maybe create a dashboard that's just showing a list of alarms that are going off. So it's about visibility, and dashboards are really your way of seeing what is actually happening out there. These monitoring policies are checking things. Dashboards are really the way you would start to see the evidence of what's been checked. So let's move on to monitoring policy. To patch policies then. So we might have different requirements when it comes to Windows updates, and we'll deal with those first. So we've got potentially machines that need to be kept in step with each other. So we might have a SQL cluster, for example. We might have different sites with different install windows. Potentially, we're not going to be patching everybody at the same time. And so really, we can start to build some patch policies here. Now, patch management for us inside of RMM really is a three-step process. First of all, we need to find out what's missing. Then we need to decide what we're going to do about it. And lastly, we need to report on it to prove we've actually done something. And so if I go to a standard sort of templated patch policy I have here, again, we're operating at this global level. And so at this level, we've made sure this is an audit-only policy. So this is not really responsible for installing anything, right? It's not its function. And so we don't care about reboots, but what we do care about is what we consider a missing update. So for auditing, we might consider them all viable. We might not be installing them all, right? We just need to know they're missing. And then down the bottom here, well, who am I going to apply that to? And again, the targeting is really down to how we want to control, who's receiving this policy, basically. So we might have a week 1 group, a week 2 group, we might have a test phase, we might have a production phase. However you guys need to organize it, it's down to the way these policies are targeted. So once I've built my audit policy, the next phase then really is the install phase. So how do we get these devices to actually install these updates? And so what I can do then is I can take my audit only policy I've defined here, click on override, and you see the scope is now changing from global to site. So I could say, okay, well, for this particular site then, you're not an audit policy anymore, you're going to be an install policy. And here's your schedule. So am I doing this daily, weekly, monthly? When is the actual install window? What are we supposed to do when we're finished patching? Do we restart the endpoint? Do we tell the user to restart it? What's going to happen next? And although I was approving all updates for auditing, now I can start to get very specific about what I'm installing based on my knowledge of the machines. So maybe patch management for us just means critical and security updates. So rather than all being approved here for install, I could change this to say, well, if the category contains maybe critical or security, maybe that's what patching means. I can build an artificial delay into my approval process. So I could say, and maybe the release date is older than, say, 7 or 14 days. Maybe we want to give the rest of the world the chance to test this update for us before we start deploying it. We can make denies here. So denies will always beat my approval. So I could say perhaps, well, if maybe the title of the update contains the word preview, right? I'm definitely not interested in installing those. So however you've got patching defined, essentially we can build it here inside the RMM. And as I said, that's all down to the way we target it. So we might have the test phase, the production phase, week 1s, week 3s, however you guys want to organize that. So the last part then is really the reporting side. How do we prove we've been installing updates? So that's back to dashboards again. Now these dashboards, as I said, you can design yourself. You can pull additional data in from the side panel here. And these dashboards are really designed to show you globally what's happening. So we could stand up a standard sort of patch management gauge here, so I can see devices failing to install updates, who needs a reboot, and so on. But I could create myself a very focused patching dashboard. So show me the servers that currently need a reboot, the workstations needing reboots, for example. These are drillable. So we've got some devices here failing to install updates. I can drill through, find out which of these devices are. Maybe I need to go and take some action against them. And so really, the patch process inside of RMM is trying to control that entire phase, find out what's missing, then choose when I'm installing it. And the last part is the reporting. How do we prove we've actually been doing this? Now, we can't ignore Mac and Linux machines. We can patch those too. That's done slightly different. It's done using a script, but essentially we could say, look, it's 4 p.m. on a Friday, go download and install your available updates. And we can't ignore third-party applications either. So things like Chrome, Adobe Reader, Java, etc. We can patch those too. So if I go back to my policies, because everything pretty much is a policy, if I go to my software management policies here, if I just take this one as the example, the timing here, well, we can decide when are we supposed to be installing these updates. It's more usual to do it at a fixed sort of time, so I might do it 3 times a week. So it becomes really predictable for both you and the end users. So I might say Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 4 p.m., something like that. And here's the applications we natively support. Now, it's really important that we do consider patching third-party apps because they're likely to be more vulnerable than the OSs nowadays. And it's all the usual suspects we have in here. So things like, as I said, Adobe Reader, Chrome, Java, and so on. And then the targeting is very similar to the normal Windows update process. And we're applying it to a test phase, then a production phase. Are we doing them in stages? Maybe the IT department goes first, right? However we want to organize that. And so that's patch management inside of RMM. Now there's a good way of dealing with security when it comes to antivirus, but also ransomware as well. So if I go back to my dashboard here, I've got this AV widget I've put up here. So go figure out whose AV is working, who's out of date, and so on. So that's a very simple monitor we can build for that. But we might be in a position where we need to enforce a certain antivirus package and a version of that AV package, right? And so we can start to use custom scripting there. So we could say every time I onboard a device, I need to deploy Sophos, Trend, Kaspersky, whatever the AV is, right? And so we can build some scripting around that. So if I go into our automation section here, if I go to our COM store, this is where we're keeping our pre-configured scripting. You'll find we already have quite a lot of AV vendors in here. So if I just do a quick search for Sophos, for example, you see we've got a deployment task for that and the monitors that go with it. And there's various other ones in here. And what we could do then is we can say, look, the first time I ever see a device show up in the platform, go figure out, does it have our AV of choice? If it's not, go deploy it for me. And when we start combining that with our monitoring, we can start to enforce policy right across these machines. They all must have a VPN client, the AV of choice. They must also have a web filter installed and so on. So you can start to use the automation coupled with the monitoring, as I said, to enforce policy. Get these machines all at the same level in terms of security. Maybe we're starting to remove local users from the local admin group, right? Let's enforce that across the machines. And so that's one of the ways we can start to enforce a security template, if you like. The other thing we can do then is start to try and monitor for ransomware. Now, Greg started to talk about this earlier. It's actually quite a simple process. Because our agent is running in the context of the local system account, we have real-time access to the file system. And so we can tell, do we see files being actively encrypted right now? Now, in no way are we trying to replace your AV product, right? That's always going to be your first line of defense when it comes to the endpoint. But quite often we see the malware that's being used to deliver the ransomware is maybe attacking, removing, maybe disabling the installed AV. So if it's not there anymore, it's not helping. It might have already missed the infection in the first place. So again, it's not helping. And so what we can do here is build a very simple ransomware monitor. So we can choose which disk are we supposed to be looking at, but it's the response again that's the important part. If we do find files being encrypted right now, should we isolate the device from the network? And what we're really doing here is changing the routing table. So the device will still check into RMM, the engineers can still get to it, it just can't communicate with anything else on the local network there. And we're also going to try and kill the process that's running the encryption. So again, we're not trying to replace the AV. We're saying here, look, if the AV missed it, what can we do? A second pair of eyes on the box, really. And so when you start to combine that with patching and antivirus, you're building quite a nice security package there. So let's go back and take a look at a machine. So when we deploy agents, the first thing we're going to do is audit the machine that it's been installed and go figure out what it is. And at the top here, you see we've got some brief information about the device. I can see here we're running Windows Defender, for example, that's up to date, it's fully patched and so on. We've got some nice metrics that we have here, and my little VM here goes on and offline. So here we go. So sometimes there's gaps, it's just because it's offline. But you see here, we've got a nice trace of the disk CPU memory utilization. I can choose to export this. We've got the policies and the monitors we spoke about earlier. This machine has a third-party patch policy applied to it, so I can see if my applications are up to date. But I could also look at all the installed applications on a machine. And we've given engineers a very quick link here to remove software from a machine. We've got the hardware information. And now this is a VM, so there's no physical memory slots to show you. But if it was a real machine, you know, piece of hardware, then we'd see the memory. We've got the disk space, of course. But right down the bottom here, we've got some user-defined fields. Now, we've got 30 free text fields in here that you can populate with any information you like. You can either populate them manually or use a script. So some people are using scripts to go pull things like the Windows license key, the BitLocker recovery keys, right? Get me the TPM module. Anything you want to store outside of our usual audit process, we can use a user-defined field for. So we can tell quite a lot of information here about the device, but sometimes we do want to connect. Now, the next part I'm going to show you, we can apply security to. So maybe I was a first-line engineer and you want to restrict the tools I have available. That's possible. Maybe we need to ask the user's permission before we connect, right? That's also possible. So please bear that in mind. It doesn't need to operate in an open manner like I'm about to show you. But I'm a full admin on the platform. I've got no restrictions, so I can make a background connection to this device. And because I don't need the user's permission, the user is completely unaware of my connection right now. So they're busy doing whatever they're normally doing, and in the background, I'm making a connection to their device. And as an engineer, you see I have access to things like the Windows services, so I can start and stop them, change the startup type, right? I've got command lines I can run. I can read Windows event logs and so on. I've got a file manager here. The point here is when machines have issues, we don't need to disturb users. Potentially, all we need to do is maybe change a reg key and restart a service. So the point behind the RMM, again, is from the monitoring perspective, alert me that something's happened. We might run a script at that point to automatically resolve it. If we need an engineer, we don't need to take over the complete machine. So the users can carry on working, an engineer can work in the background, get that resolved. And so it's all about productivity, really. You know, why do we need the machine for half an hour when potentially we could have fixed it in the background? The other thing we can do is take that full remote desktop access. And so from here, you see I have this button that says Web Remote. So this is based around HTML5. So as an engineer, I could have been on a Mac, Linux, iPad, Chromebook, it doesn't matter. All I need is a modern browser. And so for support purposes, I could have been away from the office and still get to an endpoint through RMM. You see my full control here. If there's multiple monitors, I can see which monitor I need to look at. I can pull up an on-screen keyboard if I am on a tablet as an engineer. I can send Control Delete through here. I can restart this device into safe mode with networking, and our agent does work in safe mode. So if we need to remove an old AV product, for example, there's no need to go visit that machine. It can all be done completely remotely. And when I disconnect this, we've got an activity log here that's going to get updated. And so every action that we perform against the device is going to be added to this activity log. So we've got traceability there. We've got an audit trail of what's been happening to the endpoint. And as admins, we can look at that from two different directions. What's been happening to this device, or what did a certain engineer do against all devices? So that's remote connectivity. Excuse me. Let's go back to monitoring, because one of the things we should probably highlight to you is we don't expect everybody to invent all this monitoring themselves. We've got a pre-configured library of templates. So if I look at best practices here, you see we start off with some backup software, some physical hardware, so routers, printers, switches, and so on. We've got operating systems, we've got Windows Server roles, because these servers do something on these networks, right? They're DNS servers, DHCP, and so on. And so what we can do is, if we want one of these, we can import it. We can use it as defined in the template. We might modify the template, or we can create our monitoring completely from scratch. And it's really important that we monitor through that stack. Excuse me, I've got a cough, so I might need to keep muting every now and again. But it's important we monitor through that stack. Now let's just go back to our automation section, our scripting section, because we have quite a lot of scripts in here. I highlighted the Sophos installer earlier, but there's lots of them in here, 407 that you can download and use. So some are here to pull things like Windows license keys, BitLocker recovery keys. We've got a script in here that will enforce BitLocker. So again, using maybe a monitor, we can go verify, is this machine encrypted using BitLocker? If not, go encrypt it and then pull me the key. So again, this maybe PC build process that we're going through, where we're carrying out several manual tasks, creating new local admins, BitLockering devices, patching them, installing Chrome, Adobe Reader, and so on. We can have the RMM just trigger that because it's the first time I've ever seen this device. Go do this. Perform these actions. But you can also create your own custom scripting. So maybe there's a bespoke application that we need to install. We might have an exe or an MSI file or something. So if I create a new script here, we can choose which language we're going to script in. If it's mostly Windows, it'll be Bash, PowerShell, maybe some VB script. But we can script in Bash against Mac and Linux. I can attach my installer package here, and then execute it from my my script window here. So as I said, if we've got some bespoke software that's not in our list of applications in our COM store, then we could just create scripts on the fly, essentially. And there are 4 ways we can run scripts. We can run them on demand, so execute now against 1 or more devices. And that's really useful for doing things like emergency patch deployments or instant rebooting. We can schedule them, so maybe we need to restart servers out of hours, or perhaps run full AV scans across weekends. We can run them in response to alerts like we saw with that disk cleanup script. Now, that was a really simple example. That could have easily been, the users remove the VPN client, we'll put it back then, get the BitLocker key, or the AV needs to be forced to update, go update it then, right? So we can trigger scripts based on monitors. But we can also run them as monitors in their own right. So maybe I need to check the AD or the Hyper-V replication status between 2 servers. If I know the PowerShell to do that, maybe I want to run that every 10 minutes. You'll alert me if this is failing. So once we start combining scripting with monitoring with filters, we can actually produce quite a powerful platform here. So I've tried to give you a look around the platform. There's obviously much more we can go into when it comes down to monitoring and automation, but I've tried to give you a flavor of what's possible. So I hope you guys found that useful. I guess we hand back to you, Greg.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Matt. Great demonstration. So if you just give me a moment, I will share my screen. So that brings us to the end of the demonstration today. Is there any questions at all coming in from the audience? Please feel free to use the Q&A box, or even in the chat if you're on that chatting amongst yourselves. Please fire in any questions. Actually, Matt, there is a question coming. Are you okay to take this question, sir?
Yep, sorry, just getting some water there. Yep.
No problem. Do we need to be a large organization to implement Datto RMM? Is there any cut-off points?
No, not really. I mean, it's just about endpoints, and as Greg was saying earlier, these nowadays could be anywhere, right? It's people's homes, in the office, and so on. It's about keeping control of the endpoint, so it doesn't matter how many you've got, right? I used to run this for real at an MSP. We had about 10,000 endpoints on this. There's much bigger clients that Datto have as well, and smaller ones, right? So it really makes no difference. It's about controlling endpoints, knowing what's out there, and then taking action against them as well. So we potentially don't want half a dozen machines running with no AV because something happened to them.
Okay, one more for you, Matt, just come in. Powerful product. How long does implementation time normally take for an organization?
Well, this is definitely something Complete IT will help with. But if we think about it from a general perspective, you've got some operating systems that you need to monitor. Now, we've got the templated monitoring policies for those. You've got to think about how these things should be patched. And then you've got your third-party apps and maybe some security apps that you need to worry about as well. So if you get that down on paper, then building a policy is pretty straightforward. We can either take a custom policy, take a policy we have and customize it, or build it afresh. And you're talking about probably under a week to get all this down if you know what you want to do. And that's certainly where Complete IT will assist you.
Okay. So another one, Matt, around, do we need an internal department, or is this something Complete IT can take care of for us?
I suspect that's a question for Complete IT, isn't it, really?
Yeah, we will pick that up afterwards, but I'm sure certainly Complete IT can help you and assist you with that. That's it on the Q&A, Matt. Is there any other points you'd like to add, or any questions that you normally get coming in that maybe resonate or you think would be useful?
I think I see a couple of other questions, actually. So can it pull serial numbers for computers and SANs and so on, yes, you can. So for Windows, Mac, Linux, we can just pull those natively because it's part of the audit process. For SANs or SNMP devices, really, so SAN switches, etc., then assuming the vendors made that information available over SNMP, then you can pull that too. Overall system uptime is another question there. So yes, you're really talking about sort of boot times at this point. So when did the machine shut down? When did it start? We can calculate that across, say, 30 days, something like that, and give you a percentage uptime. That's actually one of the scripts inside of the console there. You can do that against servers or Windows workstations. It's going to give you a general number, but of course, you know, although we do know when these machines are shutting down and starting, we don't know why that was happening, right? Unless you start looking through the event logs, but we can just give you an overall number. Anything else that you see, Greg?
I'm just going to check finally through. There's one about system performance. Will this alter system performance at all on the end device?
No, most of the time the agent's at rest, so it's not actually doing anything. It's just dialing home saying, I'm alive. Of course, if we go and ask it to install Office or something like that, it's going to jump up in terms of the impact it has on the machine. But if you look at modern machines, most of the time the CPU is not doing anything at all. So you know, the agent's pretty light with it's dial homes. So you know, modern machines, you shouldn't see anything happen at all, right? If the machine's already struggling and then we ask it to go run an audit or install some Adobe or something, then of course the end user will see something. But if it's a fairly new machine, then most folks wouldn't even notice.
Fantastic. Well, that looks like all of the questions that have come in on the chat. Apologies, I've missed some in the Q&A section. So that's all of the questions. Matt, thank you for your time for doing the demonstration today and being a trooper, managing through with your cough, cold. So thank you for that.
No worries.
Fantastic. Well, although that brings us to the end of the Q&A section today, I'm sure, like me, as you come off a webinar, something resonates with you and you think, I wish I could have asked, please contact Complete IT Systems. They will be able to assist you. And obviously, if not, connect through to Datto and we can provide any information that you need. Thank you for attending today's session. Obviously, a super important session around security and RMM, protecting your business, but also about driving the growth, automation, productivity, and profitability of your business. A huge thank you to the team at Complete IT Systems. A huge amount of work has gone into today's session. I got the easy job of just turning up. So thank you to everybody. Thank you for attending. And should you need any information at all on how Complete IT Systems can either help you around Datto RMM or how to basically empower your business around digital transformation, please reach out to the team using sales2@cit-sys.co.uk and they will be able to assist you for more information. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you, and goodbye.
Bye-bye.